This week's best MMA bets, we're talking UFC Vegas 87. I'm going to give you guys my lock of the week, my most confident picks, favorite underdogs. We'll talk Degen, props of the night, and then finish it out with the parlays. So make sure you guys smash the like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Last week, Manuel Torres was a fire lock. It pushed me to 3 locks in a row. So I'm feeling very good about getting this double-digit lock streak going. We have some Dagestan blood on the card, so it makes a lot of sense what you're about to see for the lock of the week. So let's jump to the lock now.
Fighting out of the Kingdom of Bahrain, Shamil Gaziev!
Shamil Gaziev, lock of the week. I'm taking him over Rozenstruik. I'm choosing to believe in the prospect who seems to have the goods, undefeated at heavyweight, good pressure style. I think that Rozenstruik will struggle with Gaziev, putting him on his back foot. I think Gaziev's hands are fast and they definitely have power. But besides that fact, on the floor, Gaziev will have an advantage over Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I know Gaziev put on a pure striking clinic in his debut against Martin Buday, but he is a talented grappler as well. He does have solid wrestling game. Definitely superior to Jairzinho Rozenstruik's. I feel like Gaziev chooses where this fight takes place. He's also going to dictate the pace of the fight. Expect him to come out fast. Expect him to put it on Rozenstruik early. We've seen Rozenstruik, even in recent fights, struggle with that early pressure. Quick submission loss to Jailton, knockout loss to Volkov. You look a while back, Ngannou blitzed him and knocked him out in 20 seconds. I think a guy like Gaziev with pressure, high pace, and heavy action from the get-go is going to be a sure winner, and that's why I'm locking him up. Now, as far as the odds, the money line is bettable. Obviously, for the most part, you guys know I'm looking for bettable money lines here with the lock of the week. It's minus 155 for Shamil Gaziev. Rozenstruik on the opposite front, plus 135. Gaziev winning inside of the distance is minus 125. If he somehow wins a 5-round decision, I'll be mesmerized. But maybe that would be like an uber green flag for Gaziev as a prospect if he proves that he has 5-round cardio. Because there are some current concerns currently about his cardio. I do think we're going under 2.5 rounds, but that's huge, minus 435. The under 1.5 is minus 175. I'm going to predict that we have a fight that's probably a round and a half or less. Minus 175 for it. I'd rather just go Gaziev straight down the money line. Big Dagestan prospect, heavy hands, good pressure, strong grappling, and I think on his way to being a sure winner this Saturday. I love him as the lock this week. I'm glad that I got that EV blood in the lock too. And let's push it to 4 in a row. I'm coming for double digits this year, and I think that Gaziev keeps us going in the right direction. That is my lock of the week. Let's now talk the most confident picks on the card. This section this week was a little bit difficult for me because there's more than 4 high confidence picks, but some of these lines are absurd. So I'm going to bring up the 4 most confident picks now, but I will drop some honorable mentions at the end. So Eric Anders to win, Steve Erceg to win, Javid Basharat to win, and Mohamed Mokaev to win. We'll talk about each one specifically. Eric Anders, I'm feeling like if he doesn't win, he's getting released from the UFC. Jamie Pickett's on a 4-fight losing streak. Anders should mop the floor with him. He's a 5-1 favorite. It's an ugly line. But Anders to win, I think knockout is live, plus 250. I know that he isn't highly regarded for his knockout power, but he is heavy-handed. And Jamie Pickett is a guy that I think is going to struggle with the pressure. Now, with Eric Anders, you don't want to throw it all on knockout because he could be an absolute shit-the-bed type of guy, and he doesn't knock him out. And unfortunately, the money line is wide at minus 500. I got to pop the Zin out. Anything is possible. And this is the most confident picks brought to you by the Zins. I think Eric Anders at minus 500 is a sure winner. Yes, the line sucks. I understand. It becomes a parlay piece. And we will parlay things up at the end, and you will hear Eric Anders' name once again. I just can't see him losing to Jamie Pickett. He's much better. He's fought way better competition recently, and he's done well. He's barely losing to Marc-Andre Barriault and Jun Young Park, who are really good. Jamie Pickett is getting smashed time in and time out. The Dennis Tululin loss is horrible. I really feel like Anders can get a finish if he pushes for it. Anders just inside of the distance is also plus 145. So you get plus money, just choose an inside distance, because what if he shows his submission skills off and he takes Jamie Pickett's back and strangles him? I think knockout is more likely, but you'll be kicking yourself if you just bet knockout. And you still got plus money on Anders for inside distance, and he's a huge favorite. Let's talk the next one. Let's talk Steve Erceg. Erceg is a guy that I've had a lot of faith in coming up. Maybe not on the scales, though, because he looked kind of, nerdy and thin on the scale against Dvorak, and I ended up flipping the pick from Erceg to Dvorak, which was an absolute fumble. I sniped Erceg early as a dog, and then I bounced back on what I said, which was stupid, and that's why the pick flips are dangerous. Minus 405, so Erceg goes from an underdog in his debut against David Dvorak to a minus 405 favorite against proven, tough contender Matt Schnell, but flawed contender. Matt Schnell's hittable. He's a guy that does, I think, give a lot of vulnerabilities to offensive strikes. I think Erceg is calculated, technical, and he's good, not only in the striking, but he's quality on the floor as well. I think Steve Erceg's on his way to getting a W. Now, minus 400 becomes an ugly line to bet on. The way that Matt Schnell fights is kind of kill or be killed, and I think Erceg could be live for his first finish. Now, Erceg to win inside of the distance is an ugly minus 175, but the submission line is plus 225. I could see him locking up a sub. Knockout to read it off, plus 215. I think sub could be live here. I think that Erceg could strangle Matt Schnell. I definitely think he's going to beat him. Could he end up going all rounds? The way that Schnell fights follows the nickname danger. I mean, he puts himself in danger, and like he's dangerous for certain guys, but he's getting hurt even in fights he's winning, like against Suma Derji. Yeah, I like Steve Erceg a lot as a prospect. I think he's a future title contender. I'm going Erceg, finish. Yeah, he's a big favorite. Basharat. Javid Basharat is minus 900. My goodness, these lines this week for some of these confident picks are just hideous. But he's going to beat Ayman Zahabi. Where you can find some plus money is if you're going for Basharat by sub. It sits at plus 400, and I think that is a sneaky submission prop because Basharat has good submission game, specifically in the front headlock position. I think his darces, I think his guillotines are nasty, and just because he hasn't finished anybody in the UFC yet, he's still a developing guy, and I think he could find a finish here, potentially against a crafty vet, but mid-tier veteran in Ayman Zahabi. Javid Basharat's definitely going to win, but he's a 9-1 favorite, of course. Hideous line. So you got to look for a finish. The under 2.5 plus 165. Puncher's chance for Zahabi. Maybe you just bet the under. But I think Basharat is live to sub him up. He's a sophisticated striker with a high fight IQ, a calculated pace, and a really strong ground game. Now, the next one is Muhammad Mokaev. This is a little bit better of a line. It's minus 330, and I know this is the biggest fight of his life against Alex Perez, but I believe in Dagestan. I believe in Muhammad Mokaev, and I really do see him as a threat to the title. I'm interested in seeing a historic run for him, getting to fight for the belt as, potentially the youngest champion, at least if he wins, the youngest champion ever, but a damn young opportunity for him. Mokaev is ugly line, like minus 330. Now, Alex Perez is a good wrestler with solid striking too, so Mokaev getting it done on the cards is definitely not out of the question here, but I am going to have faith that Mokaev works towards a sub. It is plus 110. Mokaev is live for a sub in all rounds, so unfortunately, I don't really love round propping it up, and we've seen Perez lose to two of the best flyweights, especially at the time that he fought him, in Pantoja, who's the current champ, and Davison Figueiredo, but he was quickly submitted in both of those fights and has not had a good performance since the Jussier Formiga fight, which was years ago now. And when you look, there's a lot of cancellations, there's a lot of injuries, there's a lot of halting Alex Perez's career. At one point, he was legitimately top 5. I don't know where his skill set is going to lie at this point, but I have to believe in a hard-nosed wrestler like Mokaev. I think that he'll get Perez down. I think he's the better wrestler of the two, and he does have the better offensive jiu-jitsu, and I think he's going to be en route to getting the biggest win of his career. And I feel like with a win, Mokaev's in the title picture now. he could potentially be getting a shot at the title. If he wins by submission early, he could turn around and fight at 301 against Alexandre Pantoja instead of doing a Royval trilogy, which Pantoja's up 2-0 on. I'd like that better. Now, I have honorable mentions that I wrote down that I wanted to include, but I'm not bringing 6 most confident picks. But Ludovic Klein should win, and Umar Nurmagomedov both should win. We'll talk a little bit deeper about the props in those fights in the Degen Props of the Night section. But I do want to talk about my favorite underdogs. I guess specifically this week, it's a favorite underdog on the card. It's Loik Rajabov, who's plus 150 against Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi. Al-Sawadi's not proven at all to me. Loik Rajabov, former PFL finalist, strong, pressure style, quality stand-up, quality grappling. I think he's en route to getting a hard-fought win. I would rather just Moneyline plus 150. I don't need to chase the decision prop for Rajabov, but to read it off, him winning by decision is all the way up at plus 375. I think he's got a great chance of beating Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi. I think Sawadi had a great performance against George Hardwick, who ultimately was an untested prospect that had a lot of hype behind him, but failed to deliver. And Abdul Karim, he's got quality hands. He's got a competent grappling game. I like his overhand strikes. I do think he's a decent fighter, but I think Loik Rajabov has that physicality advantage. If you're talking about strength on the inside in the wrestling offense, I think Rajabov shines, and I think he can win a hard-fought decision here against Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi. I'm going Rajabov. He's plus 150 as an underdog. I'm picking him to win here. He's an underdog that I like this week, and I think he's getting his hand raised at the end of this damn fight. I'm looking forward to it. Rajabov, plus 150. Just money line it. You don't need to chase anything else. You got plus money for that. If you like the line, if you think he wins, pick him. Now, obviously, I'm more confident in the most confident pick section, but Rajabov is an experienced and crafty veteran, and Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi is making his UFC debut. And I got to respect the resume of Loik Rajabov through PFL. I watched him fight the whole time. He's a finalist there. Yeah, he never won, but he's always game as fuck. And I like Loik Rajabov to pull off an upset in this fight. Guys, let's jump to the Degen Props of the Night section. I want to talk about some of these. So I have a few to mention. Now, 2 of them that I'm going to bring up first are about fighters that were honorable mentions in the most confident picks. It's Ludovic Klein to win via knockout. Klein by KO, plus 115. The fact that you can get plus money on it, I was even surprised that. I thought it'd be minus 130, even minus 150 at this point here, because Cunningham absorbed so much damage in that Contender Series fight, and Klein is a sophisticated and skilled striker. Definitely more than Nguyen, who AJ Cunningham fought last time out, who tough customer, and I honestly like AJ Cunningham. I'm kind of sad that his debut has to be against a savage like Ludovic Klein. I think he's getting beaten up on short notice, and Ludovic Klein is going to probably have a highlight reel knockout come Saturday. Now, Klein by knockout, and then also another one of these honorable mentions from the most confident picks, Umar Nurmagomedov. It would be a shame if I don't mention Umar by submission. I know Al-Makan is a good prospect, but Umar, his game is nasty on the floor. Plus 160, I think he can sub Baksat. I do believe he's going to finish him off by submission, and I'm calling that win submission for Umar Nurmagomedov. Now, Vitor Petrino, I didn't put him in the most confident picks because the line, unfortunately, is just way inflated. Now, granted, I'm talking about that when there's a lot of most confident picks that are inflated, but specifically this fight because Petrino, this is the biggest fight of his life. I know people will say, oh, but he beat Modestas Bukauskas, who beat Tyson Pedro. Still, technically speaking, I view Pedro as a tougher fight and better opposition here for Petrino. It's just, timing of matchups. Sometimes a guy like Pedro drops a decision to a tough customer like Bukauskas. Now, I'm picking Petrino to get the W. Yeah, he's minus 300. He's probably going to chin Pedro. Petrino by knockout plus 165. I love the chances of him absolutely chinning Tyson Pedro and getting a pretty highlight reel W. Now, another one that's interesting to me, this Claudio Ribeiro and Christian Leroy Duncan fight to go under 2.5, but it's ugly at minus 260, and Leroy Duncan to win via KO sits at minus 120. I like Leroy Duncan. I like knockout. I think he's getting it done, but I recognize Ribeiro is heavy-handed, so maybe the under is just a better option. I think fight ends inside of the distance, probably in those first 2 rounds. Those are some of the calls for the Degen Props of the night, man. I like where everything's at for this section. I think we brought up some good ones. Not going to go too crazy hunting for anything, that's not there. I'd rather just go straight props than try to tell you guys round prop it. Petrino by first round knockout. Umar by second round sub. These are ideas, right? Ludovic Klein by second round knockout. Sure, you can go touch those lines and sprinkle them down to look for an extra plus money, but I'm looking to snipe things out prop-wise that I feel the probability of hitting is at a pretty high point. Methods of victory that I see coming to fruition. Those are the most confident D-Gen props of the night, but we're not done yet, okay? We got one section to go, and I'm bringing it all up on screen right now. It's time to talk about the parlay section, my favorite section, and I would say the famed and fan favorite section. Make sure you guys watch and smash the likes if you really enjoy the content, and also make sure to subscribe to the channel. Drop some of your parlays in the comments, even before I drop mine. I'm curious where the people's heads are at. Now, I want to create safety and then savagery. So I have written down the safety call, Eric Anders, okay, and Steve Erceg. These to me make a lot of sense. I understand minus 160 is not what anybody's looking for when betting on a parlay. You add Mokaev in, you can get plus money now, which I don't think is an awful idea. I see him winning. And then you add the extension of Basharat. You got plus 139. If you didn't have Mokaev, maybe you didn't like him here. Maybe you didn't like Erceg either, though. Oh, shit, I don't want you to do that. But hey, if you don't like Erceg, some people might not. Now you're hideous. Minus 243 for me becomes like unplayable. Minus 170 now if I add Klein. What's Umar in our lineup? Minus 139. Erceg. This is like the curiosity parlay now. These are 6 of my highest confident picks on the card. I do think they all win. Plus 191. It's just 6 fighters for that. You're going to have a lot of sweat and nerves coming through to, just get nearly plus 200 line. Now, if you're feeling more like a savage, because I want savagery, Petrino to win via knockout on the lineup, I think makes a lot of sense. I think Petrino with Eric Anders, now you got plus 250. And I do really feel good about Steve Erceg, plus 360. Now from there, if you wanted to add in somebody like a Javid Basharat, now it becomes more worth your buck, right? Plus 426. I think this one can definitely happen here. You want at the top Gaziev to win it, and let's say you're a savage and you go Gaziev wins. Do we got inside distance? Yes, we do. Plus 777. Guys, I think this is the lucky parlay of the week. I don't know. The 777 is telling me something. Petrino knockout, Anders, Erceg, Basharat, Gaziev inside distance to add some props in the mix of your lineup with some very high confident picks. Mokaev to win as well. Now you got plus 1,035. It's almost like I'm looking for sneakiness. Plus 2,736 if you throw Loik Rajabov. I think one of them you do with Loik. I think one without, because obviously I'm more confident on the most confident pick section than anything else. But yeah, man, I'm feeling kind of like we're on to something. Even if you don't want to play everybody, if you just wanted like 2 main card calls, main and co-main, we go Gaziev inside distance. We go Petrino to win by knockout. You got plus 375, and you want Mokaev. You want to call it all right, plus 515. This one should happen as well. You got Umar. If we go Umar, are we going Umar by sub here? Plus 165 brings us to plus 1529. A Ludovic Klein knockout, not available yet, but maybe him by knockout. Steve Erceg on the lineup, plus 2,000. I like this Petrino KO a lot. The Petrino KO, I think, is going to be a nice parlay piece. Petrino KO, Gaziev inside distance, any of these most confident picks. But obviously, Erceg, Anders, it makes a ton of sense to bring those two in the mesh together. And actually, I don't think it's a bad idea to even do an alternate where you add in Christian Leroy Duncan. Leroy Duncan, if he's not to get cracked and bombed with one big shot, is so much better technically than Claudio Ribeiro. So I will read this one off as well. You do get plus 115 for Leroy Duncan, Erceg, and Anders. My boy Mike Finch went out on a whim, and he's calling Ribeiro by knockout. And obviously, I respect my guy's takes. But I just, dude, I think Leroy Duncan beats him. Those are the parlays. Obviously, we'll go more in depth following the weigh-ins when we get our final look. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Make sure you all smash the likes. And if you're new, subscribe. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments down below. I want to hear what the people are thinking. I want to hear what the people are playing. And I want to know what your lock of the week is. I'm going Gaziev. Yes, I'm going balls on the minus 155. A guy who's undefeated on the come-up, who's looking to really prove himself and jumping up massively in competition, but against a flawed fighter in Rozenstruik, and that is why I'm confident Gaziev wins. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out, everybody, and I'll see you all in the next one.